everyone, it's Laura here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's card features a stamp by Wild Rose Studio called Bella with Mom and some no-line watercoloring with distress inks. I really wanted to try my hand at this technique and this stamp set was really perfect for the purpose. I thought that the feel of the stamp set really matches with the soft look you get with watercolors, and also because it doesn't have a lot of tiny little details, it will make my life much easier when I watercolor it. Because I'll be doing watercoloring, I'm using some Canson XL watercolor paper, which I tape down to my surface using some masking tape. At this point I'm using distress ink in Hickory Smoke to ink up my stamp, which I mounted on an acrylic block, and using a scrap piece of paper to see what kind of results I will get. I also quickly realized that I'd better do some selective stamping because there is no way I'm gonna get a no-line watercolor look if I use that Hickory Smoke for the balloons. So for the animals I will use Hickory Smoke, whereas for the balloons I will go with spun sugar. I can then go ahead and stamp my image on the paper, and I'm trying to get a good impression so that I have an idea of where the lines are, but I'm not too concerned with it being perfect because since this is a no-line watercoloring look that I'm going for, I don't need the lines to be perfect. I'm now smooshing my ink pad on my surface and coming in with a wet brush and start painting my image. I'm trying to lay down color in the areas where I think the shadows will fall, and I'm also using a very small paintbrush because I'm trying to get as close as I can to the stamped lines so that I can have the ink interact with water and soften the lines a little bit. I will then add some water to my brush, come back into those areas and drag out the color to create a gradient. I will now play some music and let you enjoy the coloring process. I might come back here and there to make some remarks, but I hope the video is self-explanatory. Guys, now that my elephants are painted, I can move on and focus on the balloons. For them I chose to use seedless preserves, shaded lilac, spun sugar and picked raspberry, and I will describe you the painting process for one of the balloons and fast forward the rest because I just don't want to bore you. As you can see, I'm smooshing down my shaded lilac on my work surface, coming in with a wet paintbrush and start coloring my image. I'm focusing on the edges first, laying down my color there, and then use my paintbrush to drag it towards the center of the balloon. I'm shading the balloon as if the light comes from the top right corner, which basically means that I am focusing my shadows on the bottom left portion of the balloon, and I'm also making sure to leave a white highlight on the top right, as this will give a more rounded appearance to the balloon. And that's it. It's really easy actually. One thing you want to take care of when you're watercoloring is to avoid painting adjacent areas just one after the other, because this will inevitably cause some bleeding and ruin your painting. You will see an example of this a bit later in the video, but you'll also see that there are some solutions to fix this mistake. I will now stop talking and put back some music, and I hope you'll enjoy seeing me painting some more. At this point I'm working on the final details like the leaf and the flower, and if you noticed I had some bleeding on one of the balloons, and this happened because I loaded the area with too much water. To fix the mistake, I came in with the paintbrush loaded with clean water, I reactivated the paint and then I lifted it off with the dry cloth. I'm now working on my background. For the grass I'm using shabby shutters, and for the sky I'm using tumbled glass. So with hindsight, at this point it would have probably been better to use the wet on wet technique, that is to lay down a wash of clean water and just at that point come in with the paintbrush loaded with paint. This produces an overall softer blend and also prevents the appearance of those brush strokes that you can probably see in the painting. A bit later in the video I will try to hide these little imperfections by adding some grass blades. To do so I will use pewed paint and the very light flicking motions of my paintbrush. This will create some grass blades that will hopefully hide a little bit the imperfections in the background. One thing I wanted to mention about this card is that I didn't quite obtain the soft no-line watercolor look that I was going for, and this is because the hickory smoke distressing that I used to stamp the images was way too dark. When I do this again, because I certainly will, I will use an ink for stamping that is at least one shade lighter than the ones I will use for painting. All in all, I'm quite happy with the result and I think the card still turned out very cute. At this point I'm just fixing the last details, probably being, as always, a bit too particular about them, and then I can move on to the card base. I cut down my front panel using some scalloped rectangle dies by Tonic Studios, and I stamped my sentiment, which comes from the Mama Elephant Cross My Heart set. For my card base I chose to use some pastel pink and lilac cardstock, which I glued together with some tape runner, and I also decided to mount my front panel on my card base using some foam tape. This foam tape is quite inexpensive, but it's actually quite tricky to use because it sticks to your fingers and it breaks apart, so I'll make sure to get some 3M foam tape with my next Amazon purchase. I can now go ahead and remove the backing of my foam tape and try my best at adhering the front panel as straight as I can. And despite all the fidgeting, I still managed to tape it down a bit crooked, but I don't want to risk tearing everything after all this work, so I'll just have to live with my mistakes. Yeah, and that's it. That's my card for today. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. If you did, please let me know in the comments below. You can visit my blog for the full list of supplies, and I hope to see you soon with another video. Ciao!